magnesium is what actually helps your body shift out of that stressed, activated state and into rest and digest. So when it doesn't have that, it can almost seem impossible. So when that function is lost in your system stays stuck in a high alert mode and overfunctioning becomes the default. And then the brain picks up on that. And then that's just the way it continues to function. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Christian Wellness for Weary Women. I am your host, Cassie Hutton, and today we're going to talk about high magnesium. So if you remember from our last episode, some of the symptoms that we talked about with low magnesium is you might feel a tightening in your chest, not really being able to take that low, slow, deep breath. This was actually kind of I linked this together to some of my own symptoms very recently. If you're on my email list, you got that email and you heard from me some of my vulnerable moments of revelations that I've got about myself most recently. You lose that buffering space with low magnesium, with low tissue magnesium. When you sit down to rest, you feel guilty. So those are some of the things that come up with low magnesium. And so you might feel wired but tired, that you lay your head down to rest and you're extremely exhausted. You may have been exhausted all day long, but then you lay your head down to actually go to sleep and your mind can't stop long enough to actually fall asleep. And so today we're looking at the opposite end of the spectrum, because high magnesium on your HTMA might seem like good news, right? We think high magnesium is good because we talk about magnesium a lot in the health and wellness space. But high magnesium creates its own set of problems. And so in some ways it can feel just as depleting as low magnesium, because when your magnesium is too low or showing up too high, your body is still not getting what it needs. And that is what we're going to unpack today. So I want to start with the magnesium shell, because this one means that your magnesium on the HTMA specifically comes back over 20. So it looks really high on the charts. And so magnesium, just like calcium, magnesium is softer than calcium. First of all, obviously, if we think of calcium, it's softer. Magnesium is one of the calming minerals in the body, along with calcium. So symptoms of a magnesium shell are often not as harsh as a calcium shell. And a calcium shell is much more common, but I am working with some clients right now that have a magnesium shell. It is actually over 20. In fact, I'm working with one client, her calcium and her magnesium are both over 20, and that creates a peculiar mix of symptoms where someone may experience signs of both excess and deficiency all at the same time. So this is a bigger picture to unpack. And a lot of times, again, whenever we see a lot of the minerals show up on the test, it doesn't mean that you actually have a lot in your body. It means that they might be there, but the body's not using them. And so this is a lot of times why you can feel depleted and exhausted all at the same time, even when HTMA comes back showing a high number. So I also want to talk about, this is something that isn't mentioned a lot when we're talking about blood sugar regulation. So magnesium and calcium both play a big role in glucose. So we're actually going to talk about that next week. The calcium to magnesium ratio is actually a big indicator on the HTMA test of what's going on with blood sugar levels. So magnesium specifically, though, for this podcast, magnesium is a glucose inhibitor. So it's a natural inhibitor of glucose absorption, okay? And so it plays a role in insulin. So meaning it helps slow and regulate how quickly sugar enters into the bloodstream. And so you can maybe understand here, you've definitely got a magnesium issue if you've got blood sugar spikes and falls, because magnesium is helping to regulate, again, how quickly sugar enters into the bloodstream. So we're going to talk about this more in depth on next week's episode. So stay tuned. If you have any specific questions on it, please shoot them to me so that I can answer them next week. Some symptoms. So let's talk about symptoms of biounavailable magnesium or high magnesium on an HTMA test. So fibromyalgia is a big one. Chronic pain throughout the body, muscle weakness and cramping, especially after exercising, irritability and depression, confusion and lack of mental clarity, insomnia, diarrhea, low blood pressure, and overfunctioning, and constant fight or flight state. So those are some of the symptoms that you might experience. And so that overfunctioning kind of still also relates to low magnesium. So you can see where it might be hard to kind of figure out on your own where you might be at. And this is why actually testing to see where your levels are actually at can be very beneficial. Another thing that I was reading in a study recently was how magnesium plays a role in ADHD patients as well, especially children with ADHD. A lot of the studies were mostly on boys, but it was very interesting. There are lots of mineral patterns that show up in ADHD kids. Go figure, because you're depleted, the adrenals can't work properly, and so therefore you have a dysregulated child who looks like they're hyperactive all the time because there's not that magnesium there to buffer that I need to rest. There is no resting in sight because magnesium's not there to allow them to rest. So let's talk about the emotional and nervous system pattern, the connection between high magnesium. And again, overfunctioning. This is what happens in people who have a loss pattern of magnesium. So magnesium becomes biounavailable in the body, so your nervous system loses one of its most important tools for down-regulating. So that's kind of the gist behind this entire episode, is down-regulating. Again, even though it looks contradictory to what's showing up. High magnesium, you would think you'd be like, whoo, I can actually sit and rest, but that's actually not the case. So magnesium is what actually helps your body shift out of that stressed, activated state and into rest and digest. So when it doesn't have that, it can almost seem impossible. So when that function is lost in your system stays stuck in a high alert mode, and overfunctioning becomes the default. And then the brain picks up on that, and then that's just the way it continues to function. It's not like you can just supplement magnesium and then all of a sudden, oh, now I can rest again. Now it's this whole downstream effect of even rewiring the brain to go, oh, I'm actually safe enough to rest again. It feels like the only gear that your body has is to go fast and to never slow down. And this also can turn into what looks like a personality trait. And so this is kind of a big deal. This is something that even the church knows. Like, we talk about this, they've just been that way forever. Maybe it's not actually a personality trait. Maybe it's actually depletion and burnout, okay? Why the body gets stuck here and what it's trying to do. So when magnesium is biounavailable and the nervous system cannot regulate down, staying in that activated fight or flight state is actually your body's way of protecting you. As we know, fight or flight is always a way of, it's our body's response to getting us out of danger. No matter what that danger feels like, the body is responding to some sort of danger, whether that is actually running from a bear, or whether that is an emotional unsafety that we feel, or just a response to, that's a reminder of something terrible that happened in my life. And so now the body feels unsafe. And so, especially as a female, our entire world revolves around feeling safe, whereas a man, their entire world responds to feeling, kind of meeting a goal, or always rising to the challenge, so to speak. That's what drives them, whereas safety drives us. And so the problem is that it was never designed, magnesium was never designed, our bodies were never designed to stay in fight or flight long term. So we need that sometimes, that good stressor, but we need to be able to come down from it. So it's just like if you've ever watched a dog, they suddenly see a squirrel or the thing that they want to chase and go hunt it down, and they take off after it. They are like full force, like whoosh, they hunt it down. And then when they come back, they literally lay down and take a nap. This is their body's actual way of regulating. And so if we're talking about feeling like we're stuck in that fight or flight state, that's the body's response. We do get stuck in that state because we've been in it for so long. We have felt unsafe for so long. And so the body is like, this is our new normal. And so it takes along with supplementation, it takes a lot of patience and practice of teaching your body it's safe again. even in just situations where I find myself, I've learned to notice when my body begins to feel unsafe, and I have to self-talk myself through it, either in my head, if I'm in a certain situation, if I'm in a conversation where I start to feel uncomfortable. I have to take a deep breath, catch myself, show myself that I'm safe again. This is okay. You don't like confrontation, but confrontation can be good. I have to talk myself through all the things that I have learned to feel uncomfortable with, and reteach myself that I'm safe in these situations. And it hasn't been easy. I've had to really learn to recognize when my body feels unsafe. I've had to learn the words to use to actually speak to the other person or the situation or whatever it might feel like. It applies to almost every single relationship that I have, down to my kids and my husband, as well as friends and family. And so it takes a lot of practice to teach your body that you're safe again. And it's not easy. It's something that we've learned from childhood, or just picking up on our parents' emotions, or things that we were never taught as young children on how to deal with conflict. We're now learning it as an adult. And this can be hard and a hard thing to navigate. So I want to get to the reflection questions to ask yourself to gauge whether or not you're dealing with high or low magnesium. So you can go back and listen to the reflection questions from low magnesium, and then listen to today's questions for high magnesium to gauge where you might be at. So, question number 1, where in your life do you feel you're in constant fight or flight mode or overwhelmed? Number 2, where in your life might you be over functioning or pushing beyond capacity? That pushing beyond capacity is a big one. We really didn't touch on that language in this podcast episode, but that's that over functioning, right? You're actually pushing beyond your capacity each and every day. Number 3, where in your life might you lack clarity or be confused? This can be a big one, especially for women who, let's just talk about stay-at-home moms, who you want to stay at home and be with your children, but you also know you have a desire and a passion to pursue something outside of just being a mom. And there's that, or I hear so many Christian women talk about, what is my calling? What is my purpose? And there's this stuck confusion of exactly where am I going in life? And so if you're married and you have a husband, I would say, first of all, you two need to get on board with what his vision is, because a lot of times what our role in the marriage can be is that's what we want. We want our man to be grounded. We want him to give us a vision, and we want to come behind him and be that support along the way. We want to be the wind beneath his wings to help him reach his goal, so that in turn we feel safe and supported, and so are our children. And then we're creating a legacy. We know that our children are coming behind the whole family vision of where we're going. We want to see that. We want to know, what is the end destination of this? What is your actual goal? And so that can be kind of the first place to start if you're feeling a lack of clarity or confused. And if you have that down and you feel like you and your husband are on the same page, and you feel like you're more so working on, what is my role? What do I want to do? Where's my passion? Then I just say, keep taking one step forward each and every day. You might, in a month from now, completely change your message and your tone and where you're going. I did it so many times. I can't tell you, until I finally came to a point where I knew what I was doing. And it's lasted longer than anything else I've tried to put my hands to, okay? And so that has been a huge blessing. I've not wandered away from it. I've not decided, I don't know that this is really what I want to do. I don't know if this is what I want to keep talking about. It's finally come to a point where I just kept putting one foot in front of the other. I knew whatever the next step was, I just did it. Instead of like, is it going to be the wrong step? I just did it. And I encourage you to just keep doing that. Next question. I've got 3 more questions. When did you last feel like your body was truly at rest? And what did that feel like? Go back to that place of what it felt like and when that was. Number 5, are there areas of your life where you say yes when your body is clearly saying no? These are boundary issues. Just start saying no. What would it mean for you to stop pushing, and what comes up emotionally when you consider that? What would it mean for you to stop pushing, and what comes up emotionally when you consider that? In 2 weeks, in the low magnesium episode, we talked about a lot of fear of letting go of all the responsibilities. That might be coming up again with this one. So in closing, high magnesium can be very similar to low magnesium, but neither are a character flaw. It is just your story. Your body is trying to tell a story with your mineral patterns. This is how your body is responding to the stressors that you've been through, your DNA, what you've picked up from your mom and what you've picked up from your dad, and your body's response to all of the crap that's been through your bloodline, right? And so it's not a matter of let's fix this. It's a matter of leaning into what story your body is trying to tell you and then supporting it along the way, helping it work through the patterns that are not good for you, helping it work through the traumas and the mindset patterns that you've picked up along the way, because it's really not your fault. It really is. I mean, maybe some of it is. Okay, let's take a little bit of responsibility in a world that never takes responsibility for the things that it does and doesn't do. But gently correcting the thought patterns, gently correcting the behaviors, gently correcting the things that are not of the mind of Christ and not aligned with biblical values and the way Jesus teaches us to think and act. So I'll have one closing verse for you, and it is Zephaniah 3:17. It says, "He will take great delight in you. He will quiet you with his love." Because this is what we feel most often when we have high or low magnesium patterns, is an inability to feel like we are quiet on the inside. There's always something running. And so I speak that verse over you, and I bless you today. And I can't wait to talk about the calcium to magnesium ratio that we're going to touch on next week, specifically with blood sugar patterns. Okay? I'll see you then. Bye.